What's happening, guys? Full push back at it again. Figured I'd give you a little demo as far as, like I promised, getting some more silver contacts and everywhere we can find silver at other places that you may not know where to find it at. I've got some breakers, some other things sitting here to give you a little knowledge and know-how, and I'm going to show you how to get that contact that we can get easily off of those breakers with removal of the torch from the map gas. Knock those off, and if my video will let me, I'll pause and go inside and do a count up of what I've accumulated today from all this material. But let's jump right into it. Let's see here. These are some electrical switches we got here. Dimmers and your normal old school just in your wall switches. They yield a really small piece of silver, so it takes a bunch of them overall to make up. We have, let's see here, these are brazing rods for your heat and air man. When he brazes some of his soldering connections, plumber would solder them, and these guys usually braze them. But these contain Street Tips did a refining process on these rods. He bought a whole pack of these rods and broke them down. They do contain silver inside, a nice amount, actually more than solder. But buying them, you would lose money. But if you could find them like I have, it's all free silver, guys. Let's see here. This is the back of a dryer I just scrapped out. These little boxes right here. I'm going to try to get some of these off. I don't know if I can do this one-handed. It's kind of a pain in the ass. But we're going to try. Grab some channel locks. See if I can put the LeBrons on here and get them off. May destroy them trying to do this. This actually has a gel coating inside. So these are kind of, this is hard as piss. How about we scoot over to this here. This is a microwave back. There's your front. This is the back. It also has a silver mylar inside. Let's see if we can bust this sucker out of here. These should pull out a little easier, but one-handed it's still a feat. These should pull straight up. Break off the tip. And then I normally just give them a little squeeze. Let's see here. Set it down. Right there are your two. I know you can see that right at the tip of my fingernail. That little piece right there, that is your actual contact of silver. There's two pieces inside of here. These are the inner relays. These are some bigger ones. These have bigger pieces, of course. But this is a back of another one. This is not the one we just pulled off of. 1, 2, 3, 4. That one I just took off is 5. So there's actually 10 pieces in there as well. And let's see if we can get this mylar out as well. That went in the yard. Unmount him. There's your digital dings. Right on. And I'll probably have to bust the hell out of this with a hammer. More than likely. Or maybe not. Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay, so the mylar you see here goes underneath this plastic, which is snap locked into the side. But we got a fix for that. Oh, trusty. That'd be great if I could just pop that out of there. Alright. Phase 2. That's an epic fail. That sucker is actually in there pretty good. But if you separate this front panel, that should lead directly to that. It's sticky taped. They are sticky taped to the back of this, just so you know. They are easy to get out, but me holding it with the one hand is not that effective. Alright. These are also some of the other snap relays I showed you guys in the last video. That little click. And I went ahead and took this apart. This one is why they threw it away, actually. Right there is the contact of silver, and you can see that it is corroded all to hell. It is actually burned up. Right there. Alright, but take a pair of pliers, give it a little squeeze, and that pop, the top of that will pop right off. Those are no problem. This came out of a drill. These are some of the breakers I'm going to bust down. And guys, of course, if your breaker is good, you do not want to scrap it. You're not going to get much out of it. That is your little silver button on the end of that. I have some of those over here. I'm going to show you how to take off. If I can light it up, I will have to set the camera down to do that, but let's bust one of these open. Some of the plastics are easier to break, and some of them are like Fort Knox. It just depends on how old they are and how hot they've gotten. But a lot of people will wrap this up in a towel. I don't, because I don't care about my porch. All this gets tore off this summer anyway. So what I'm doing to the concrete, I could give two craps about. But if you don't own your house, and if you'd like to keep your stuff nice and so forth, then you don't want to do it this way. There we go. This is the contact that actually would hit the live circuit bar. And this is the little contact of silver right here. This, when you flip your switch, I don't know if it'll work now. I've got the, no. When you flip your switch, this other piece of contact comes up here and smacks this. That's what gives you your on and off. Let's see here. If I can expose it. There we go. Sweet. There we go. When you flip your switch, this kicks this forward, and that little contact will hit this contact. And that's what gives you your on and off switch. It also turns the power back into this and leads this back into your outsource for your, right here is where you could connect to your back of your breaker to get your juice out into your lines. We'll take a quick shot of one of those here in a minute. But also that little copper lead that's on the inside of here, the little stranded braided stuff, and some of your older breakers, they are actually, I got a bunch of them, but they are actually, some of these yield really high content of silver in them. Some of them don't, but some of them do. There's a different coloration, as you can see. You can almost see the silver coming out of that right now. That's almost like a, it's basically the high yield as far as silver coming out of that. So some of these I got to go back through. I just threw all these in here just for getting them in a bucket and keeping them. You actually see that one right there. That one sticks out like a sore thumb. When they get burned off and they oxidize, the copper will flake off, and that will leave more of the silver inside intact. We have a old remote for a VCR. I was curious. I just busted this one open just before I started this. And it has a rubber back, which leads to a hard board that is just like your silver mylar, but is on a old board. That's what holds it, basically. This would be the same process to refine this as in CDs. How many of these suckers have you went through in your life and shit canned and threw away? That's actually a small deposit of silver on the back of that. Silver is the most reflective surface known to man, so that's why it's used for any kind of DVD-ROM, DVDs, CDs, that kind of stuff. You would break these down with a hammer, break them in little small pieces like this, and you'll put that in your acid bath and let it release and flake off. The bigger the breaker, the more you'll yield out. And some of the newer breakers, like this is your smart breaker, these are $45 a piece in your newer homes. AFCI is an arc fault circuit interrupter. They also make a GACFI, which is a grounding and an arcing, which would be for your wet environments and so forth. But these are definitely not something you want to scrap. There's a bunch of other stuff inside, resistors, that kind of stuff, your diodes, palladium, a little gold, not a whole lot. Those are super expensive, and you do not want to go through this process. You only want to use stuff that is outdated, and most of the time you find any kind of this stuff, it's going to be outdated. These are from your main lugs. This is your 100 amp panels. So the more the amp you have going through them, the bigger contact inside, because there's more of a surface going to touch each other, and it has to be strong enough to hold that voltage when they come to contact. Let's see here. I'm going to work all this stuff up and then bring it inside for a count up and a show off. Let me see if I can go over here and take one of these out of a breaker and pop it off. It's warm outside, but it is kind of windy, so we will see how that goes down. I'm going to show you these right quick. These are VCR fronts from old VCRs, and they are also silver mylar. So you pull those off. They go in the same bath as the other, as your CD-ROMs. These are small inner tactile switches. These are super little bitty suckers. But if you can hear this, that is a little contact of silver as well. It takes a whole crap load of these suckers to make any kind of yield. But when you're doing this, everything adds up. This is the inside of one of these, if it'll focus on my finger. If you catch that little button right in the middle, that is your silver contact piece right there in the middle. I mean, I told you guys, these things are super small, but in the end, they add up. That's what it's all about. Because when you're refining something like this in acid, it totally melts it anyway, and you're separating all the materials. Mr. Dirty Nickels. If y'all guys don't know who Mr. Dirty Nickels is, go check him out. He hunts boxes of nickels on the regular. And he asked me earlier today in Discord about these would be your doorbell switches. He had one that had a board in it. These are two new ones that I did not use for a house because they had their own custom one. This will be your front door. This will be your back door. It's just these may be silver plated. I'm not 110% on that, guys. I have not refined these to find out what happens, but we will eventually. So your front door with the board, it only has the board in there because it turns the low voltage back into a LED light. So that little button will light up right here. So you see your front door for the pizza man. This should yield very small deposits of silver in the solder, like a 2 to 5% yield. Not a whole lot, but that was that. The low voltage doesn't really need a whole lot of the strength of the silver to make the contact, because the low voltage doesn't have a lot of arcing going on. All right, I'm gonna set this down. I got this in stage. These are some of my all kinds of little switches and buttons and stuff. These will be melting down in the acid bath because they're too little to knock off in this manner. But let me see if I can light this sucker up. Let's see if we can knock one of these suckers off. It's windy. It is warm, but it's kind of windy, so this may kill it. Hang on 1 second, guys. You want to keep it about 1 inch away. That way the flame is getting just at the right angle. It's got to turn cherry red before it'll fall off. I did this the last time at nighttime. The video turns out a lot better. You can see everything get glowing cherry red. And that little button has got to get hotter than heck to fall off. And as windy as it is, it may not come off. I'm going to give it a second though and try. Turn up the juice. Oh yeah, there we go. Hard as hell to do, one-handed. You see it getting cherry red now? Well, it's on the bottom side. Get off there, sucker. Now, this is going to go down as an epic fail. There it is. Bingo. Right on, guys. That was an epic fail. It still came off. But where the wind's blowing so hard, it's kind of shit canned. There's one from earlier, a couple days ago, and that's the one we just now knocked off. I'm gonna go ahead and process some of this stuff up, get it inside, and do a weigh out. Catch you on the next one, guys. As always, keep pushing.